Imagine waking up to a beautiful summer morning. The sun is shining, the weather is perfect, and you're ready for a long vacation. Now, imagine that summer never ends. I'm not talking about a few months or even a few years. What if summer lasted for 10 million years? It sounds like a dream, right? But for the creatures living 100 million years ago, this was a brutal reality that completely reshaped life on our planet. This era of heat transformed the world in ways that are almost impossible to wrap our heads around today. We've all heard of the age of the dinosaurs, but there was a specific window of time that was even more extreme than the rest. Around 100 million years ago, the Earth entered a phase we now call the Cretaceous Thermal Maximum. While people often search for stories about the longest summer in Earth's history, this event was the real deal. It wasn't just a warm spell. It was an era where the planet basically became a global sauna. During this time, the world was already much warmer than it is today, but something pushed it over the edge. Even before the famous T-Rex ever walked the Earth, the planet was dealing with a climate that was completely unhinged. To understand why it got so hot, we have to look at the very ground beneath the dinosaurs' feet. The supercontinent of Pangea was breaking apart, and in the gap between Europe, Africa, and the Americas, an ocean was being born, the Atlantic. This wasn't a quiet process. The birth of an ocean involves massive volcanic eruptions and constant earthquakes. All of that volcanic activity pumped an unbelievable amount of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. We're talking about CO2 levels reaching 2,000 parts per million. For some perspective, that is 7 times higher than it was before humans started using factories. The air became a thick soup of greenhouse gases, trapping heat like a heavy blanket over the entire world. The results were wild. The oceans became so warm that a dip in the sea would have felt like sitting in a heated swimming pool, even in areas we now consider cold. In fact, if you had walked the beaches of Antarctica back then, it wouldn't have felt like a frozen wasteland. It would have felt like a summer afternoon in Switzerland. Because the heat was so intense, the ice caps were non-existent, which meant all that extra water had nowhere to go but up. Sea levels rose to nearly 1.0 feet higher than they are today. If that happened now, our modern maps would be completely underwater. This massive shift in the environment was bad news for a lot of famous sea monsters. For over 150 million years, dolphin-like reptiles called Ichthyosaurs had ruled the waves. But as the ocean slowed down and the climate shifted, they couldn't keep up. By the end of this long summer, they were gone. The same thing happened to the Pliosaurs, the undisputed apex predators of the deep. They were the giants of their time, but even their massive teeth couldn't save them from a changing world. But when one giant falls, another rises. With the old kings gone, the oceans became a playground for new nightmares. This era saw the rise of massive sharks like the Cretaceous. This thing was bigger than a whale shark but with the attitude of a great white. And then, there were the Mosasaurs. They started off as small, lizard-like creatures, but the warm, open oceans gave them the perfect opportunity to evolve into the terrifying giants we see in movies today. Life on land was just as crazy. Because of all that extra carbon dioxide, plants were growing at a record pace. Lush forests and vast savannas covered the continents, providing an endless buffet for herbivores. And when there is that much food, nature responds by making animals bigger. This is the era that gave us the Argentinosaurus, the largest dinosaur to ever walk the Earth. Imagine an animal so big that it weighed as much as 80 tons. To put that in perspective, you could take 6 or 7 of the famous Diplodocus and stuff them into one single Argentinosaurus. Of course, giant prey brings giant hunters. In South America, a family of predators called Carcharodontosaurids took over. These weren't your typical hunters. They had teeth like serrated steak knives, designed to cause massive bleeding. Creatures like the Mapusaurus and Meraxes stalked the land, potentially hunting in packs to take down the massive long-necked giants. Even in other parts of the world, like Asia, the heat triggered some strange evolution. We saw the rise of the Gigantoraptor, a bird-like dinosaur that looked like an ostrich on steroids. It was as tall as a giraffe and weighed over 2 tons. It's hard to imagine a feathered creature that massive roaming through a humid, prehistoric forest. But that was just another day during history's longest summer. Ultimately, while we might complain about a week of hot weather, the Cretaceous Thermal Maximum shows us just how extreme our planet can get. It was a time of boiling seas, disappearing continents, and monsters of a scale we'll never see again. It was a 10 million year lesson in how climate defines the history of life. If you found this journey by in time fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories from the deep past. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next chapter of our history here on the Sleeping Historian.